Officials are now openly admitting to counting disqualified ballots in the Pennsylvania Senate race. It is open defiance of the state's Supreme Court, which instructed them not to do this on November 1st. And Democrat Bob Casey refuses to concede the election to Dave McCormick as the $1 million recount gets underway this week. Alexis McAdams has the latest. Alexis.
Hey, Kaylee. Well, people at home are wondering what is going on in Pennsylvania because people thought this race wrapped up days ago. But hey, not everyone thinks the Senate race is over in Pennsylvania. And that includes Democrats on some election boards who admit they're breaking the rules to overturn the results. But Democrats say throwing out those votes because of clerical orders just violates Second Amendment rights. That's why they're doing it. They say, watch.
It is a pretty stupid thing to not count someone's vote simply because they didn't, date an envelope for a ballot when we know specifically for that person when it was printed. We have a pretty good approximate date of when it was mailed to them.
You can't just change things according to the Supreme Court, but it comes days after the race was called for Republican Senator-elect Dave McCormick after he beat out incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey. But Casey will still not concede days later. So now this week, the race is heading for a recount, and it's going to be expensive, you guys. It's going to cost taxpayers $1 million. Some blue counties say they're now counting ballots that do not have those required signatures or those dates, which is against the law. And that's according to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, which ruled that weeks ago. Now the RNC and McCormick's teams are suing at least 4 Pennsylvania counties. So as that goes on, we're also seeing that Senate Majority Leader-elect John Thune of South Dakota is calling on Casey to concede, as Democrat Senator John Fetterman says he thinks his counterpart is going to do the right thing. But the question is, when is that going to happen? McCormick's team says it's business as usual for them, so he's going forward with orientation in D.C. and making new hires, says he's looking forward to his Senate seat. So we'll see what happens, Kaylee.
We will continue to watch the open defiance. Thank you, Alexis. Look, I cannot get over this story. And John, this is not a good look for your home state. These are Democrats. I want to make this clear. Democrat election officials in 4 counties saying, we do not care what the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania says. They said it November 1st, do not count ballots missing a date or with an inaccurate date. They literally say openly, we do not care. So they're not only defying a court, but a court that is 5-2 Democrat to Republican.
Going on the first segment, we should get some Philadelphia Eagles down there and make them count the votes. They'll get it right way better than these county commissioners. Well, look, this is illegal. It is illegal under Pennsylvania law. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has said you should count only ballots that are signed and in the right envelope. But more importantly, it's a violation of the federal Constitution. This goes back to Bush versus Gore in 2000. One county can't use a standard to count votes that other counties aren't using. That's actually, if you think about it, every time they count one of these illegal votes, they're depriving a legitimate voter of their vote. So this is actually something for Donald Trump's Justice Department to get in on. They can actually investigate and prosecute these people for depriving people of their voting rights in Pennsylvania, my home state. I do not know why some minor county official in Pennsylvania thinks it's their right to violate the voting rights of everyone else in the state.
So that's fascinating that you see a role for the federal government, that you see a role for DOJ. Emily, I want to underscore how brazen this is. I cannot imagine actively defying the law and saying it out loud, but let's bring in the Bucks County, Pennsylvania commissioner. Here's what she had to say. I think we all know that precedent by a court does not matter anymore in this country. Say what? People violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention. There's nothing more important than counting votes. What about abiding by your state Supreme Court?
Totally. I mean, I thought we solved this issue, right, a couple hundred years ago with a certain Supreme Court case. This was, I agree with you, the audacity is so mind-boggling, and also the lack of intellectual grasp on what the underlying issue is, which you are exactly right. If they care about election and vote integrity, then they would see the colossal illegal act that they are actually doing. So for the Bucks County council member there, as we said earlier, or as we saw earlier, when he said it is stupid to not count a vote. No, sir, it is unconstitutional and criminal to count that vote. So to me, the answer lies squarely, of course, with the eventual Supreme Court and the DOJ stepping in. But it saddens me that in the interim, everyone in Pennsylvania has to be subjected to it. And by the way, the Senate is answering too. They're saying, no, we're not going to seat this person, by the way. Like, it is so blatantly illegal. Everyone is color commentating here exactly the balls and strikes as they see it. It is so clear. It is so obvious. And yet all it is doing is taking time away from the actual duly elected senator. And it reminds me, by the way, of what Kamala Harris did when she was AG of California, when, remember, the citizens of California brought their own proposition. It overwhelmingly passed. And she just said, it's unconstitutional. I'm not going to defend it. It wasn't unconstitutional. She didn't defend it. And that wielding of the law is criminal at a minimum.
You know, let's bring in the gray lady, the esteemed New York Times. You know, guess what their headline is? I'll let you guess. No, we'll actually pull it up for you. In Pennsylvania, the election litigation continues with a twist. Okay, the twist is defying the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania. And then you've got CNN. I love when there's friendly fire. CNN calling out the New York Times. Here's Andrew Kaczynski on what they're really saying. Is this twist that they're defying the state Supreme Court in ways that benefit Bob Casey? Let me answer your fact check, K-File. Yes, Harris.
Well, look, I was taking notes on what you were saying, John. So the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court has spoken. Is it time for them to speak again? You don't just get to ignore it. The U.S. Supreme Court can get involved. We've already seen that happen. But how far does this really need to go? You mentioned that the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania is 5-2 Democrats. Well, we hope that it's not decided based on party. But it certainly looks like this move to flout the state and state Supreme Court law is being pushed by Democrats, both on the state Supreme Court and then Democrats on the ground by the state Supreme Court, not saying, no, 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 we made a different decision. We hold to that decision. You have to follow us. I mean, it feels like politics. And if it is, it's dirty.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll get into the politics of this. So, look, I've worked on Senate races before. You know the math. So Senator Casey's team knows the math. He knows that this is insurmountable. There's no path to victory. The Associated Press looked at recounts since the infamous 2000 presidential recount and looked at there's been 36 statewide general election recounts since then. Only 3 resulted in a new winner. We're talking about a difference of hundreds of votes, not tens of thousands, which is the difference between Casey and McCormick in this Pennsylvania Senate race. Beyond that, you can go back to the 2008 Senate race between Norm Coleman and Al Franken. Al Franken did come back, but it was a 0.02% difference. 225 votes was the difference. Mm-hmm. So there is no path for Senator Casey here. What he is doing is small and petty. It is wrong. And also, where is Governor Josh Shapiro in the state of Pennsylvania? This is a state issue. He is ignoring county commissioners openly saying, not only am I breaking the law, but I'm bragging about it. I'm rubbing it in your face. Yeah. And so where is he? So shame on you, Josh Shapiro. If you think about running in 2028, we're looking at you, buddy.
Well, and where is the state Supreme Court? Like, they should do a reissuance of what they said was law just to make sure everybody gets it. Because otherwise, with 5 Democrats leading the majority on that legal body, it looks tainted. I think that they would want to protect their reputation.
I know some of the justices on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I'm a member of the bar. I expect that they're going to intervene at some point.
I think so.
Because this is about the rule of law in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yes. Well, the RNC's filed litigation. I expect that they'll weigh in as well. And I thought Democrats cared about the integrity of our elections and the vote count and, abiding by the courts. I guess not.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.